last class we started with the essentials of a valid offer. First one we did intention to create legal relationship. We discussed the case of Balfour versus Balfour. Then we discussed offer must be communicated the offeree. We looked at the case of Lalman Shukla versus Gauri Dutt. Third, we looked at quotation of price is not an offer. We discussed the case of Harvey versus Facey. Fourth, we discussed an offer may be positive or negative. So today we'll be looking at the fifth one, offer may be express or implied. Now what do you mean by express? When I say I want to sell my computer to you at rupees 50,000, I'm basically expressing it orally through words. On the other side, what do you mean by implied? Through understanding. It means that an action is performed and you have to understand, it's understood that you need to pay for the work done. Example, a coolie at the railway station takes your luggage until the gate of the station and it is understood that you have to pay him for the work performed. Okay, there's no communication between the coolie and the person over here, but he has performed the task, or it is he has completed the work, and it is understood for the owner of the luggage to pay for the work done. So that is called as offer may be express or implied. Sixth one, offer must be made with a view to obtain the acceptance or assent of the other party. Let's discuss this case. Harris versus Nickerson, 1873. Now here, Nickerson is a person who's the owner or who has put up an ad in the newspaper saying that his office furniture and other related office items are put on auction for sale in the newspaper ad. Okay, so he's put up an ad in the newspaper stating that he wants to sell few of his office furniture and assets on auction. So Harris looks at this advertisement and decides to travel all the way a long journey and reach that particular auction location on particular date. To which he notices, for some reasons, Mr. Nickerson has cancelled the auction on that particular day. Now we know that Harris has traveled a long way to in order to reach this auction. So what Harris does is he files a case against the Nickerson in the court of law stating that I have spent so much of expenditure in reaching this auction, for which I have found out that the auction was cancelled. Now I want to sue Mr. Nickerson and claim the damages and claim the expenditures that I have incurred thus far. What does the court say? The court has dismissed the case of Harris, or the claim of Harris, saying that an ad in the newspaper, especially if it's an auction, does not constitute an offer. An auction or for sale in the newspaper ad will only constitute invitation to offer. Therefore, the court revoked the case of Mr. Harris, and Harris could not claim any kind of damages or expenses he has incurred. Let's look at the basic differences between offer and invitation to offer. Let's look at the meaning of offer. When one person expresses his will to another party to do or not to do something, to take his approval is known as approval. Remember and notice this word here, to take his approval. Okay, offer, when I'm stating to you I want to buy your computer at rupees 50,000, I want your approval for that offer. Is that clear? On the other side, what is invitation to offer? When a person expresses something to another party to invite him. Please note that word, to invite him, to make an offer, it is known as invitation to offer. Is that clear? It is called as invitation to offer. Here I am not actually taking his approval. I am just inviting him to make an offer. Second difference, define. The word offer is defined in the Contract Act under section 2A, but invitation to offer is not defined in the Indian Contract Act. Why? Because invitation to offer does not constitute contract. That's the reason it's not defined under the Contract Act. What is the objective of an offer? I'm willing to enter into the contract with the other party. If I'm willing to buy a computer from you at rupees 50,000, that means I want to enter into the contract with the other party. On the other hand, what is invitation to offer objective? I'm just inviting you to receive offer, not to make a contract, but just to receive the offer from various people or public and then negotiate the terms on which the contract will be created. Now, we just looked at the Harris versus Nickerson example where it was an auction for sale. Any advertisement that we see on the newspaper, especially for the sake of auction, it is an open invitation to the public to receive offers from them, and then whichever is the highest bid. We all know how auction works, right? People from various places come to buy a certain maybe an antique car, or it can be any kind of equipment or an asset. So people start bidding their prices. After some time, the highest price reaches, after which nobody can bid again. That price will get confirmed, and then the asset or that furniture will be sold to that particular person. Same thing happens here. To receive offers from people and negotiate the terms on which the contract will be created. So once the highest bid, that person who quotes the highest bid, with him I am going to make the contract. Fourth, is it essential to make a contract? Agreement? Yes. Offer? Yes, it will constitute an agreement. But invitation to offer? No, it will not constitute to make an agreement. What is the consequence? If I offer to you, right, I want to buy or I want to sell my computer to you at rupees 50,000, and when other party accepts that offer, then that offer becomes an agreement when accepted. So once the moment the other party accepts my offer, it turns into agreement. On the other, invitation to offer becomes an offer only and only when it is responded by the party to whom it is made. Now let's say I have called for an auction to sell this office furniture, and if you have come in the auction amongst many other people and you have given me the highest bid price, okay, then I'm going to seal that price, and then I'm going to respond to it by sealing your price. Okay, you give me the highest bid and I seal that bid, and then I respond to it. Got it? And then that will constitute to an agreement. Hope you've understood the basis of difference between what is an offer and what is an invitation to offer. The seventh one, offer must be definite, unambiguous and certain. Here, unambiguous means what? Ambiguous means what? Confusion. Okay, both the parties in the contract are not having clear terms of understanding, clear terms of contract. It is only confusion. What do you mean by unambiguous? There's absolutely no confusion in the terms and conditions of the contract. Both the parties have a clarity and a certainty of the terms of the contract. Let's say, example, Mr. A offers to sell his car to B. Look at that statement, and Mr. A has 5 cars. Now, Mr. A is offered to sell to his car to B very good. B is happy to buy that car. But B is very confused in this case. Okay, B does not know which car Mr. A is selling to him. Maybe it's a BMW, or maybe it's another car, another branded car, etc. He is not sure of which car is Mr. A selling to him and at what price and at what particular date he is selling. There is no certainty of the terms in this example. Therefore, an offer must be definite. If A is selling, he must say, I want to sell to Mr. B my BMW car at this particular price on this particular date. Now, this statement has a definite terms. There is absolutely no confusion. Number 8, an offer must not contain a term the non-compliance of which would amount to acceptance. Compliance means what? Respond, or complying to it, or agreeing to it, accepting to it. Non-compliance on the opposite means not agreeing to it or not responding to it. Let's look at the example. A agrees to sell his house for rupees 5 lakh to B. Full stop. If B does not convey his opinion by 1 week, then it will be considered as accepted. Okay, now here what is A telling is he is willing to sell. Okay, he is willing to sell his house for rupees 5 lakh to B, well and good. But what is his condition here is, if B is not responding within 1 week, okay, so A is telling that whether or not you respond within 1 week, I will agree to that you have accepted my offer and that you are willing to buy my house for rupees 5 lakh, which is actually not right. That will never constitute to be a contract or to be a valid offer. A valid offer and acceptance requires acceptance or certainty from both the parties. When A is telling he want to sell his house for rupees 5 lakh to B, B also must respond orally, or B must also respond maybe in a written way that yes, I am willing to buy your house at rupees 5 lakh. Just because A is silent and not responding does not constitute acceptance. Ninth one, offer must be intentional to do an act. Right? Now, if I'm stating to you I want to sell my house to you, I must make all the necessary legal arrangements or anything. I need to put that statement into action. If what I'm stating is not put into action, then it won't constitute to be a valid offer. When a person states a certain offer, he must be willing to put it in action. An offer without intention of the offer to commit something is not at all an offer. It is just a mere statement. I'm just telling I would like to sell my house to you at rupees 5 lakh. That's all. I'm not making any further steps to perform the legal formalities, prepare the legal documents, transfer of property, etc. I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying it orally. That will not constitute to be a valid offer. 10th, offer should not be a cross offer. First, let's look at what is a cross offer. When two parties exchange identical offers to each without knowing that the other has made a similar offer. So here what is happening is, let's look at the example, an offer by A to sell to B on a certain terms, okay, and an offer by B to buy from A on the same terms, unaware of A's offer at that time. Let's take the same example previously. Mr. A was willing to sell his house for rupees 5 lakh. Okay. A's intention was what? Sell his house for rupees 5 lakh. Done. Let's come to B. B also was looking to purchase a certain house. Okay. B also was having the same intention to buy the house, and his budget in hand to buy the house was rupees 5 lakh. Now both of them at the same time come and tell their offers to each other, not knowing either the other party was also having the same intention to offer. This particular situation or this particular offer is called as cross offer. Understand? Imagine for a contract you need one person to offer and one person to accept. If both are offering to each other, will that constitute to a contract? Definitely no. It will not constitute a contract. Contract means one must offer and one must accept. Therefore, a cross offer will never constitute to be a valid offer. So, offer should not be a cross offer. Hope you have understood today's points. We discussed with express or implied. Offer must be made with a view to obtain the assent of the other party. We discussed the differences between offer and invitation to offer. Then offer must be definite, unambiguous and certain. Offer must not contain a term, the non-compliance of which would amount to acceptance. Offer must be intentional to do the act. Offer should not be a cross offer.